All right, welcome to the Leadership Puzzle. I'm your host, Jeff Lupinacci, and today we are going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to be put on the hot seat, and I've got Jeremy with us. He is our podcast producer, as
Hello.
well as the executive search consultant and marketing for Evolve HR Solutions. So, Jeremy, thanks for coming in. We're going to talk a little bit about the third workforce today, and Jeremy's going to help us with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here on this side of the camera today. Obviously, we're in a fun studio for this episode, so we're excited to share with you about the third workforce. So, obviously, Jeff, you have been researching and studying a lot about some trends within the workforce in America, and you've kind of coined this idea of third workforce. Can you tell us what the third workforce is?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we historically thought of the workforce in two buckets. First is your full-time employee. In the U.S., you might call them your W-2 employees. And then the second workforce would be the contractors or the gig employees who are brought in for very specific tasks or projects to augment the first workforce. Well, now that we have AI agents, AI bots, digital assets that are coming into the infrastructure, we need to think of them differently than just automation, right? Technology has automated processes, but AI can do so much more than just automate the process. So I really believe that we need to think of it as a third workforce that needs to be managed. And so, this AI will be your third workforce, and they're just going to be another employee that you have to think about and manage. You don't have to worry about giving them coffee breaks, but you certainly have to worry about them doing the process and the thinking right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It kind of is a shift where instead of thinking of AI as a tool, you're taking it a step further, and you kind of, maybe to put words in your mouth, they're like a coworker now within your organization. Can you explain what exactly brought you about into that shift of thinking?
Yeah, because AI in this truest form is going to be able to take on 20-30% of the activity of a company. I mean, that's substantial.
Right.
And so when we are figuring out who owns the work, how is the work accomplished, how are decisions made within that work, how is it audited? Well, historically, we've just automated processes, and we've set it aside, and we don't think about it. But AI can do so much more. It can help collaborate on different scenarios. It can take over not only the transactional tasks, but it can help us to do so much more with creativity and brainstorming, and it can analyze certain projects that standard automation can't.
Right, much faster too.
Oh, a whole lot faster. I mean, what would take a marketing professionals 5-6 hours to do, AI can do in 2 minutes. So I did just as an example, I created a salary structure with all the right overlaps and everything in I don't know. It spit it out in 3 minutes.
Wow.
And it would normally take 3 weeks to build something like that. And so I was done in a couple hours versus a couple of weeks. And
wow.
So it's so much more impactful when you start thinking of it as a someone that you're co-working with and co-laboring with than just
right.
It is so much more than Excel. Excel is a great automated automation tool. AI is so much more than that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and a lot of the kind of conversation around AI there's a lot of fear in it. There's a lot of hesitation about what the future holds when partnering with AI, and obviously the crazy, off the rail ideas of where AI could go, as well as the realistic ones, more such as HR professionals being concerned that their jobs will be replaced with AI. You're very rooted within HR, and at Evolve we're very we're very keen on continuing HR, and we're not trying to replace it. But tell me, a little bit about what the biggest misconception is when it comes to AI, and especially when it comes to AI replacing jobs.
Yeah. AI is not going to take jobs away per se. No more than the computer did when it took over typewriters, or when the internet came about. So will jobs change? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be new skills and capabilities and roles that start popping up? Undoubtedly. But those individuals who are willing to learn and adjust and adapt and have the new mindset will be able to continue to work and have fulfilling careers. The only people whose jobs will go away are the ones that don't want to take full advantage of what AI can actually bring, and it's probably you'll lose it to someone else if who knows how to do it. If you just put your head in the sand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really interesting kind of. In one sense, AI is coming in as a kind of new employee within the organization, but it's an employee that's managed by people.
Yeah.
Still. You still need people to manage it. So it's kind of both and, two sides of the coin. It's a tool as well as an employee, basically.
No, that's right. Think of it like this. And this is what I tell, especially HR professionals who might have a little bit of anxiety that their job's going away. And so I'll sit down with CHROs and heads of HR, and I'll say, look, most of you are under-resourced and understaffed, or understaffed and overworked. Bringing in the right AI tools can actually free up what limited staff you do have, and this can be across anything, not just HR, but any function that has too few resources. Think of it as you can bring in AI to help augment the staff and free up the precious human resources that you have to actually do the more strategic, value-added work, and less on that transaction stuff, which is important, but it's not necessarily adding value to the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then what would you say to the people who would? I can imagine a scenario where someone might come back and say, well, I've already seen a company where they have an AI bot managing the interview, and that's my job. What would you say to that person where it seems very directly that their job is being replaced by this AI bot?
Yeah, make no mistake, the technology is out there for AI bots to do interviews, work with first level customer support. I mean, so there's absolutely that technology that, frankly, a lot of candidates on the recruiting side enjoy the experience. But you still need a human to come in and say, yeah, that person really is going to fit the culture of the company. You're going to need a human to come in and go, yeah, that person really is a good candidate for this role. AI can help automate some of those just scheduling and a lot of that upfront interview questions that are just the basics, really just screening kind of questions.
Sure.
Think of it like this. We've all seen job posts where there's over 1,000 applicants.
Right.
There's no physical way where a recruiting professional can screen that many applicants. AI, however, can screen all of them almost simultaneously. Probably not. It would probably take a little bit too much computing power. But the fact is, it can be screening multiple people at the same time.
Right.
And it can then be given feedback to the candidate. It can then be creating appropriate notes that are really important to have from a compliance perspective. It can then also say, hey, this person really did hit the questions of what was asked. So it can flow through a whole lot more candidates than a person can. But you still need that human, that recruiter, to come in and do that second level interview with a much smaller pool.
Yeah, that is really fascinating, and I'm sure, at least as a recruiter myself, sorting through 1,000 applicants seems just like daunting. It would be the last thing I would want to do, you know. And so the ability to have, you know, a short list made from that pool definitely sounds appealing. I think we're just maybe in a unique spot in the job market where you unfortunately are having 1,000 applicants, and there probably are candidates who will be missed based on they could be a great fit for the company, but you know, their resume or their profile might not be, you know, what you would set up within an AI to look for. But the reality is, you know, those things are programmed by the person and by the company, and so the individual might not see it either, you know. So I think it definitely creates a way where the specificity of a profile, an AI would probably be able to identify that 100 times, or maybe let's say not make it perfect, like 95 out of 100 times, rather than a person, you know, if there are 200 applications in, they might miss something that is really, you know, pivotal, and that would be the right person for the position.
If you go and you look at anybody's first point of issue with the recruiting process, it's the applicant tracking system. Right now, most applicant tracking systems, they say, oh, they're powered by AI. Basically, all it is a bunch of SQL rules that it's following.
Sure.
And there's no logic, there's no you know, like decision making capability. It's either a yes or no on the, you know, the rule. It's like a if then kind of a statement, right? And so a lot of great candidates get kicked out of the current applicant tracking systems.
Yeah.
Whereas with AI, because you're getting in and you're doing a 10, 15-minute screening interview, it's able to actually ask the questions that will allow the tool to be able to capture the real data around the person that you know, you can circumvent via resume. Right, we all know you can throw your resume into ChatGPT and create one that is perfect for to try and maximize the opportunity to get through the applicant tracking system firewalls.
Yeah.
With an AI interview process, you actually don't have to worry about fooling the system.
Sure. Some of the woes that people are experiencing, if they are actively looking right now, aren't necessarily AI powered tools or the third workforce like we're talking about, but they are, you could maybe say, AI adjacent kind of processes set up within the application or applicant tracking system.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it kind of seems like the key shift will be human resources as a department will kind of be refined to, and this would be maybe between the great companies versus the ones who aren't as great. The great companies, their HR departments will have a focus on EQ and culture and really the things that, like, what it means to be a human within human resources. How do you understand what type of culture we're building? This one position, we need someone like X, Y, and Z. That's who we're going to find. these resumes are great, but the human is the one who needs to determine whether or not they'd be that fit.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, an AI bot is not going to be able to tell whether you have a high emotional intelligence or whether you are resilient as a leader or whether you are adaptable, creative. It just can't see some of that. It can assess your hard skills, right?
Yeah.
It can say, well, what's 1 + 1? And you can say, well, it's 2, and it'll go, oh, great job. You know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, all this sounds great, and it seems like it could really make for smoother processes within HR departments. Why do you think some leaders are resisting AI coming in and really being a third workforce within the organization?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One is change. People generally don't like change, and let's be honest. Since COVID, it seems like we've gone into overdrive in terms of change. Everything is changing. You can't not open up the internet or social media and something new is happening that's disrupting things. And there's a whole lot of hype about AI. I think there's a whole lot more hype than there is reality. Everybody and their brother is saying, hey, AI, I'm AI powered, and it really is mostly just automating processes with massive SQL databases that's telling it what to do when. But that's evolving. That's we'll see things coming. But in the fever pitch to put AI in, folks are jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, let's be honest. The Roomba back in 2002, when the Roomba self-propelled vacuum cleaner came out, well, that really is like an AI bot, like a real bot, a physical bot. So it's been a slow. I mean, it's been around for a little while.
Sure.
It's just with the advent of ChatGPT 2.5 years ago, that made it accessible to everybody. So the other thing that I think people just don't understand the power of what AI can do. Now let's just take a simple example. I was fortunate enough that I jumped into using ChatGPT when it first came out because we had just started Evolve, and I was like, oh, well, let's see what this can do. My wife, however, was like, I don't want to deal with that. No, don't want to deal with it. Don't want to deal with it. Well, back in April when I had the keynote speech, which is also now on posted on YouTube, I talk about the third workforce and AI, and she was like, okay, I get it. I'll let me play with it. And she is now a fan. She is now okay. She named it, and that's one of the things that I do recommend is humanize it. And she named it Max, and so she's like, oh, I got to ask Max how to write this or how to do this, and it is streamlining her work. She's probably saving 15-20% on of the routine tasks that she would normally have to do, and so she's learning now how to leverage that. And so those later adopters, you just got to get in and try. Just try it.
Yeah, that's a fun story. That's awesome. I just have my HR hat on, and I'm kind of just thinking about if they are, like a kind of pseudo employee within your organization, they need a job title. You said naming it is important. I go a step further and think maybe they need a job description too.
Oh, absolutely.
What would you, should people go about maybe building that job description, or, in a more maybe utilitarian way, like function description of what the purpose of the AI bot is going to accomplish within their role. How should people go about building that?
Yeah, no different than you would a normal job. So when when you step back and take a look at your organization, you normally go, okay, what's the work that has to be done? What's the workflow? What's that activity and the results for every kind of role? And you look at, well, what does this role do? What does this role not do? What are the boundary lines? What are the guardrails? What's the audit process? All of those things, and you start building out what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And just like every other job description, the difference here is, so you'll put in what is it that you want the AI bot to do, what is off limits for the bot, but also you want to layer in, well, where does the human come in to interact? So you want to make sure that you're thinking about it from a governance perspective, build it right into the job description, where there's a section of, instead of like skills and experience that you want the bot to have, who's managing it? What are those decision points that a human has to make? What's the output that it's not going to go any further until a human goes yes, or the bot's manager says yes. And so you build all that into the job description, and that way everyone's clear. Right? I know where my job begins, where your, and ends. You know where your job begins and ends, and where, in the case of Max, the AI assistant, where Max's job begins and ends.
Yeah. This is interesting. Let's kind of build on that more. Let's say, okay, I don't know if maybe I'm just coming in with my the younger generation. I think naming it feels a little like gimmicky to a degree, but it'll still have a job title or a function title regardless. Let's say it's the recruiting coordinator type AI bot, or something like that, which in any job description, the coordinator report to the manager, reports to the directors, so it does seem to fit within that what is it? Not pipeline, but
the construct of the organization.
Yeah, structure. The structure, right. So can you paint a picture and like build, really just build that idea for us? What would, for our sake, Max, what would it be doing? What would the, as an example, role maybe within HR? I'd love to kind of, just do that kind of case study type of thing where you build that out.
Well, we already talked about looking at candidates that are coming in, scheduling, reaching out, scheduling the interview. Once the candidate says, "Yep, I want this date," it'll come on. It'll say, "Hi, I'm Max. I'm your friendly neighborhood AI recruiter. Just to let you know, this will be recorded, and I am a bot, right? I mean, it's very upfront about that, and then it asks questions, and it'll then actually give feedback. Oh, that was a really good answer. That then creates a file for the recruiting manager or the human recruiter to read out all the results and look at all the results of the ones that it says, okay, these are the priorities based on the answers that I think that you're looking for.
Right.
And so that's when the human will take over. Now the bot may come in and help additional scheduling for additional interviews with a live person. Now
which an assistant would do, a human assistant might do anyways. But
it's just a whole lot more efficient,
right?
And it can be doing multiple steps at a time, right? And then the bot can be a great tool for onboarding, right? So as soon as like, yep, here's the candidate that we want. Here's the offer that we want to do. It'll then say, oh, hey, it's Max again. Here's all the paperwork that you need to fill out. I would still have the human make the offer. Yeah. But Max could come back in and make sure that the paperwork is done, it's signed, and then have a queuing process that, 2 weeks before it sends off this information. 1 week before it sends off this information, and it's then doing all of that coordination and administrative activity on the onboarding and the pre-onboarding that you would normally have an administrator do. So really taking a lot of just time-consuming steps out of the process, and then it could hand off to a HR bot that would then manage the onboarding. Oh, hey, welcome. You now have training that you need to do. Here's the training that you need to do, and follow up and whatnot. It can do all of that.
Yeah, I like that because especially in companies where there isn't just an abundance of resources, which now it feels like most companies are feeling like that. But smaller companies or medium-sized companies where they can't afford to have that full-time assistant or full-time kind of administrative person to do some of those tasks, and then having that ability to make sure every box is checked, and not, as long as you set it up correctly, not worrying that this person forgot to send the handbook, and they came to work in the wrong dress code, or something in a simple way like that. And I'm curious, how specific and how strict do you need to be with kind of the management or the setup? I think you used the word governance earlier. How strict do you need to be? How specific? Can you kind of paint a picture in that regard?
Yeah, governance is really important. It's fascinating. So, 25 years ago, when I was at Intel, I was working in the e-business group. This is when e-commerce was really just starting to kick in, and so I was tasked to come in and look at the process chain, the purchase to pay, requisition to pay. The sales cycle from sales to receivables, and look at a transaction and what happens if you automated the whole transaction, which is back 25 years ago. It was all just automation, and it was all rules-based automation. And what I found was you could literally automate the whole process and didn't need a human to look at any part of it, which potentially creates lots of opportunity for fraud and unethical behaviors if you're dealing with money and you don't have a person really in charge of auditing and monitoring.
Right.
Okay, now you have an AI tool that can usher it through completely. You really don't need a employee, but it also has some intelligence baked into it and decision-making capabilities baked into it. So what you really need to be able to do is say, hey, at these points, I'm going to stop it purposefully and have a human look at it.
Sure.
And so that's where that governance, that you have to look at the workflow and understand where you really need someone to take a hard look at it and know what is good and what is not good. And that's where my biggest concern is with AI in general is most of us started out in these entry-level jobs, and we worked our way up. We learned all the different process and tools and systems and all the nuances of things. So by the time that we moved into manager role and others, we had a good foundation.
Sure.
Well, if you don't need to step into that kind of role to learn on that basics, and how are you going to learn what good is or what bad is on a transaction level? And so that's where companies and HR and managers are going to have to think differently about how do we really educate the human that's going to own this process for us. Because we have to be a lot more explicit to understand, because you may not have managed it when it was paper or even a
Yeah,
you know,
it's maybe not the employees now who are implementing the AI, but it's the second and third generation of person in the role who they step into the role that manages the AI of the onboarding and recruiting process.
Right.
Yeah, technology we know is finicky in general. You know, who knows what could happen, and just even understanding the onboarding and the purpose behind it, and some of the important steps, especially within HR, understanding compliance and things like that is very key to the position and to the industry. And so, yeah, I do see where that could be a shortcoming. Do you have any initial ideas on how managers and HR departments or whoever, you know, within companies can be setting up their future employees for success in that regard?
Yeah, I think you really need to look at what is the expected outcome of a activity, right? And so look at the outcomes, because the system will take care of the process, but if you don't know that 1 + 1 = 2, then you know, and you go and audit, you should see a 2 there. But if you don't know that the outcome should be 2, well, then you get a 3. You're like, oh, got an outcome, so let's go, right?
Yeah.
So it's based on what is that outcome that you would expect, and you have to look at, well. I think it's still enough of a documentation and training of what it should be looking like to produce that outcome.
Yeah.
And so it's a different kind of training. It's not going to be as hands-on as previous generations.
Yeah, that makes sense. A minute ago, you talked about in the past with some of the automation, there's a lot of room for unethical practices, fraud. I think of just general risk that company might take. How do we prevent this third workforce from really having any weaks or cracks to where risk or fraud could kind of enter the equation?
Yeah. You know, there needs to be someone who is, or a group of people that are responsible for looking at the outcomes and the processes of the bot, looking for biases, looking for you know, outcomes that are outside of the norm, you know, the deviations from the norms, and they need to be explicitly on the lookout for that. You know, most companies would have a internal audit team that was separate and distinct from any particular function that could go in and look at it from a impartial view. I think we need to have that similar kind of internal audit function for the work that the third workforce is doing, right? So that's the way that we need to just be thinking about setting that up.
Especially as it gets more complicated and more nuanced, and they take on more responsibility and things like that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, how do you see this, the industries changing in the next 12 months? You know, especially I'm thinking HR, but you can kind of touch on just broader than that if you want. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do think we're going to see more and more opportunities for recruiter sourcing, onboarding. We will see it on the customer service side of things. We're already seeing the bots that are on every website. Now, some of those are still SQL driven prompts, but we'll see that continue to evolve into more generative AI. We're seeing a lot of it now. I've been playing with business development, where you know, the bot is going and looking for individuals and reaching out to try and connect with folks. You know, kind of sales process.
Yeah.
Definitely, we'll see it on the sales side of looking at the CRMs and helping the salesperson, take notes and figuring out their schedules and whatnot. I mean, here's a simple example. I'm using AI to help me schedule when I should be reaching out to potential clients, and it's like, okay, I want you to each week I want you to give me 50 people that are on my list of folks who I've built relationships with over time. I want you to tell me what 50 I should talk to this week based on a 4-week schedule.
Yeah.
And I just have to say, okay, okay, Max, who do I need to talk to this week?
Mm-hmm.
Or reach out to this week?
Yeah.
And it serves up, the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can help me with an outreach message or
whatever.
Right,
of course. And very practically, are you doing this on ChatGPT for now, or do you use multiple AI tools or things like that?
I'm playing with different things. So I definitely use Chat. I've used Claude, Copilot. They all have different benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm piloting this business development. It's a separate system that someone's built. So
how has that been so far?
It's got promise.
Sure.
It's not. In our industry, it is so relationship based.
Yeah.
And so I could see where if I had a physical product, it could be great.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm also starting to dabble in creating my own bot.
Interesting.
Just because you can use the AI tools to create your own AI bots or agents.
Yeah, interesting.
That I could put on a website or whatnot. So
nice.
Trying to stay ahead to figure out, okay, what's really working here. I know that there's a organization that does market analysis for job pay, and which I love, and they started using an AI, like real generative AI, to help create the right data points to get the best salary bands for a particular job in a particular city. And so that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, that saves a lot of work for sure. If you could, maybe a fun question, if you could create an AI bot for Evolve, your organization, what would be kind of the job description of that position?
I have no idea. I
just can't replace me, but other than that,
that is true. No, I think there could be, I think business development would certainly be a good one. Kind of certainly scheduling of interviews. So that would be one that I would be very interested in kind of building out and helping you and the other team members streamline some of that.
Yeah.
There's certainly been some roles where we've had large amounts of applicants that this would have been really nice to have go through with screening. I think it also would want to have it help me build out some of our management or leadership training. Not so much the content, but helping to build out the lesson plans and the workbooks, and the tools that the participants might use. So that's just time consuming to go on to Canva and have to build out a workbook for a class that we're teaching. Whereas if we have all the content and everything and we feed it in and it creates the workbook, now that could be a huge time saving.
Absolutely. For us. Yeah, that's great. I guess, we still have some time left, so I have a couple kind of big picture questions. And how do you see the third workforce impacting like HR strategies within organizations when it comes to hiring, retention, even like management training, employee satisfaction. Yeah, how do you see the third workforce impacting those?
Well, I think it really depends on how the leader decides to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If the leader, for this example, the HR leader, CHRO, VP of HR, says, "Look, I only have 5 people on my team, and I've got 8 people worth of work that I have to get done." Well, that leader, if they think, okay, I have five resources, let me go get AI, generative AI, a bot, an agent to help me with the other 3 headcount worth of work that I don't have, like physical people to do, then all of a sudden, all of the stuff that the 5 headcount are already working on, they'll be able to hand that over to the AI agent, and they'll start being able to do the more value-added work for the business and take on the additional work. Now, you got to keep prioritizing. You can't just add more work, and so all of a sudden you need 11 people.
Yeah.
Right? But so I think the astute leader and the leader willing to lean into this change and adapt to it and embrace it will find that they can actually do a whole lot more with the workforce that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some change management. They're going to have to help some of the employees reskill.
Sure.
There might be a point, and there might be individuals, and I recognize there might be individuals who they don't want to.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? And so you treat them with respect and dignity, and you help them find some place that they will be able to use the skills that they want to use versus adapting to some of the new things. Because,
right.
I mean, it's not going to be overnight that every company is going to be doing this. So it's going to be a process.
Yeah, absolutely. You've spoken a bit to the skeptic towards AI. Maybe for a second, for the person who is eager and excited, similar to you, about what AI could bring and provide for a company, who maybe works in a company where they aren't surrounded by that same excitement, what's one step or one action someone could take to kind of begin encouraging their company or their team to look into these the third workforce in general and maybe start implementing those into their organization?
Yeah, there's some basic tenets of culture change and change management, and the first is start small, do something simple, and create stories around it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, similar to my wife creating Max, and now she'll not even thinking about it, tell her coworkers about, oh yeah, I asked Max to help me with that, and look what I got, and I saved an hour of time, and it took me 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, just those little stories can get people going, oh, okay,
yeah.
So that storytelling, and you have to tell a story 8 to 10 times, a positive story 8 to 10 times, for someone to start believing it. They don't have to experience it themselves. They just have to hear someone else, right? So
yeah, that's a good point.
If I say, oh, let me tell you about Max, and then you came up and said, oh, hey, let me tell you about Max. All of a sudden, they've got 2 data points. They're like, oh, well, maybe I need to think about Max.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's what someone that wants to change a culture and get people more excited about it, start telling stories about what it's doing for you and the benefits of it, and why you're doing it, and how you are a skeptic as well, and that just starts making a world of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, it really sounds like Max is going to be Evolve's next employee once you build out that bot.
I don't know if it's Max or what, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it can have any other name at that point.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share about the third workforce and your ideas? I think we really covered a lot of ground today, and I thought it was a really insightful conversation, really optimistic for what the future could hold.
I think for any leader that's listening, just a couple of things. You wanna create a job description. You want to humanize it, give it a name. It's simple as that. And you want to start recognizing and rewarding employees who are taking advantage of it. Identify the champions, the AI champions, and starting to tell positive stories about how it is impacting the workforce in a positive manner. And you'll see things just start growing and taking a life of its own.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there any place that we could point people to that has more resources about the third workforce and the work you're doing there, or even begin to kind of start looking at that kind of new theory on new employees?
So I've been doing a lot of blogging on evolvehrs.com. And so that's a place where I'm putting a lot of what I'm learning and thinking about in terms of the third workforce and how to think about it, and some of the kind of core things that you can do. You go to Substack. There's tons of great resources on Substack, and you can go to any of the big consulting firms. They're now starting to talk about AI. They're not using third workforce per se, but they're starting to talk about treating it like almost like an employee. So,
yeah, absolutely.
They're just following us. We were
That's right.
We were the originators of it.
That's right. Yeah, and we're going to be doing a lot of kind of resources on your LinkedIn, and yeah, maybe I've heard rumors of a potential book in the future on this.
I am writing The Talent Advantage 2, and working title is The Rise of the Third Workforce.
Great.
Giving a nod to our friends at Matrix and Terminator. But so I'm hoping to have that out for the fall.
Great. Yeah, that's exciting. Well, either way, we're going to kind of this is kind of getting the ball rolling. And so we're excited. And thanks you so much, Jeff, for sharing kind of a foundation for these thoughts and ideas and trends that you're seeing. And we're excited to keep hearing more from you.
Great. Thanks for being here, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks. We'll see you next time.